Welcome to Health and Wellness Group for Monday, June 15th. And before we begin, I would like to wish 3 of our sunshine people a very happy birthday. So let's begin. Today's Health and Wellness Group is based solely on one thing: what it's like to shop at a grocery store with no sense of smell or lack of sense of smell. I have somewhat of a sense of smell, but it only works for certain things like alcohol, gasoline, Febreze, stuff like that. The clicking you're hearing is damage to my camera. I'm sorry that you're hearing it. But I wanted you to experience what it's like to shop with no nose. So when you first come into the grocery store, you get to smell the smells, enjoy the fresh fruits, enjoy the fresh vegetables, the fresh meats, all that stuff. With me, I don't, because my nose doesn't work. So how do I shop when my nose does not work? Well, I use my sense of sight. Is the product ripe? Does it look green or does it look brown? And I also rely a lot on my sense of taste. So for like meat products, I have to be aware. And for fruits, I look for ripeness. For grapes, I usually look at the bottom of the bag and see if there's a lot of stickiness on the bottom. Because stickiness means juice. And juice means that the grapes are full of it. So that's one of the ways that I work with my nose. See, in the fresh produce and the meat sections and the vegetable sections, you guys have an advantage that I don't have, which is the fresh smell of the fresh picked fruits or the fresh cut vegetables. With me, I don't enjoy that so much. Similar if you guys went into the makeup section and looked at perfume. So let's talk about visuals without scent. A ripe banana will generally be more yellow than green. But if you get a greenish banana, it's okay because it will ripen pretty quick. So ripeness is a good way to tell. With watermelon, for example, you can look at the bottom of the watermelon and see how much water is being produced by the bottom where it sits the most. I do have one advantage over you guys that can't smell. Onions don't bother me except in my eyes, but I don't get bothered by the smell. So, like right now, I'm looking at grapes. And you guys could probably smell whether or not they're good. I usually look at the bottom of it to see if there's any juice on the bottom. That one doesn't. But, I never really thought to share my experiences with you about not being able to smell, but as I got to thinking about it, it seemed like a good health and wellness idea. So what do you guys think about what is it like for you guys that can smell to go to the grocery store? I'm curious. I think a lot of the times when I eat foods, I don't get that sense of smell to go along with it. So, that's probably why I enjoy a lot of foods people think are like gross. I enjoy lima beans and I enjoy certain things. One of the big problems though for me is how a food tastes or the texture. Certain textures just bother me really badly, like slimy texture, or the gristle, or if a food tastes too bitter, I'm not likely to want to eat it. So I don't enjoy foods like cranberries, for example. And I found out that I like Brussels sprouts, but only if my sister-in-law cooks them. So my taste and my sight has a lot to do, and my touch has a lot to do with what I do when I eat. So if you've ever seen me eat meat, you've probably seen me where I've been pressing on the meat and touching it with my fingers, and you're probably thinking, why are you doing that? Well, for me, it's to make sure that what I get when I eat is not a bad texture. So there's only been a few times when my nose has actually worked. The one time it worked when I smelled a fresh cooked pizza, but the problem was there was no fresh cooked pizza. So I don't know why that actually did that. So basically for me, you know, it's kind of like being blind almost. I guess the Febreze commercials call it nose blind. So when you can't smell, just like when you can't see, other senses are more heightened. But there's a lot of things that, you know, you guys that can smell will have over me, and there's a lot of things I'll have over you. For example, I don't get to enjoy the coffee smell in the morning when my mom makes it. So fresh roasted coffee does not wake me up. And coffee's bitter, so I don't really drink coffee. The only time I drink coffee is probably if it's in ice cream or something. So I don't get to enjoy morning coffee. So if someone could please explain to me what fresh roasted coffee smells like down below, I would appreciate it. Another thing that doesn't really, when people cook these extravagant meals, I don't get to enjoy all the mixed flavors. So, you know, that Thanksgiving meal that's ready to go, I never get that because I don't know what food tastes like when it's cooked. I know there are foods that I really like salmon, all sorts of vegetables. But if a vegetable is like bitter or slimy or something to that effect, I'm more likely to be like, no, I won't eat it. But, you know, I really want you who are watching this to think about your nose and how much it helps you when it comes to grocery shopping or eating, or, you know, maybe the fact that I can't smell the food also prohibits me from knowing, you know, the full effect of eating. A lot of people that can smell, what happens? You enjoy the scent, you enjoy the taste, you enjoy the sight and the sound. But for me, it's texture, taste, and sight. You know, if something looks gross, I'll probably try it. But if I don't enjoy the taste, I'm most likely not to eat it again. So I don't know exactly what the smell of my food has ever smelled like. I do know I can smell Febreze, I can smell gasoline, I can smell the alcohol, and I can smell alcohol. And of course I can smell all those wonderful smells that people don't want to smell in life. So this is a different perspective for you. And I bet you've never really thought about your nose in action when you go to the grocery store or to a restaurant. Like when I get a pizza delivered, I never get to enjoy how it smells. I do have an interesting function of my nose. When I smelled skunk one time, it didn't smell stinky, it smelled like mint. Don't ask me why, ask my nose. So, next time you're enjoying your grocery store trip, or next time you're enjoying your restaurant or your cooking, remember just how wonderful it is for your nose to work versus someone like me who has to rely on other senses. So, back to our group. So for meat, you can tell if a meat is spoiled or not by the color. It may be grayish or, you know, just discolored. One time I was at my house and I was cooking this meat stuff, And I mean, it looked weird, but my mom always said, don't just throw stuff away because you think it doesn't look right. And I was cooking it, and I decided to throw it out. And she said, what's that horrible smell? And I said, well, that's the meat that I threw out. And she was glad I had done that, because the refrigerator we had in the basement at one time had actually spoiled the meat. So always look at your expiration dates as well. The other day, I had some cookies that I had purchased, and I tasted one, and it tasted kind of bitter. And so I threw them away, and I said, Mom, these are in the trash can because of this. And she said, oh, okay. Well, she didn't taste anything wrong, and so she just said, well, I'll eat them. So, oh, I never use antibacterial wipes on a griddle. Ugh, that was a huge mistake. So you can check the ripeness of your food, the juiciness by how it feels, the stickiness, the color of your meat. You know, grayish discolored meat is not fresh. And I learned a secret for eggs, because what you do is you fill up a bowl full of water and you put your eggs in. The egg, if it sits up on a tip at the bottom, is still fresh and can still be used. If it floats to the top, it's spoiled. And if it sits on its side, it's fresh. So that's what I do for eggs, since, you know, Everyday Strong. Oh, these are paper towels. So, you know, and of course, everybody has seen mold before, so that's not really a new thing. But just remember that some people can't smell, and so you are very blessed if you can. Thank you for watching.